Welcome to the July 25th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Matt McNamara. To my right is Ken Foreman, who is the Vice Chairman of the Board. To his right is David Haddad, who is an Associate Member of the Board. And to my left is Scott Zielinski, who is the Clerk of the Board. To his left, Patty Johnson, a voting member of the Board. And to her left, Mark Kuhl, who is an Associate Member of the Board. This evening we have two continuations. We have two new hearings. And we have a brief matter following the public hearings. Again, to remind folks that are maybe here for the first time, we attempt to have a full and fair hearing by the board, deliberating on the information that has been placed in the file by doing site visits in all of the locations and listening to testimony that may be brought on the evening of the hearing by both the applicant and those in the public. Everyone will have an opportunity to be heard. I would ask for your courtesy and respect as we go through the hearing. First of all, if you could silence any cell phones or electronic devices that you may have. I would ask for your attention in listening to anyone who's been recognized by the chair to speak. If I do recognize you, please come to the lectern, give us your name and your address so that we can make sure that we can understand the perspective that you're coming from. I know that in the past we've had some interest of videotaping our sessions, but I do want to remind you that we are broadcast by FCTV. But if anyone has an interest in videoing, they will need permission from the chair, and we will not disrupt a hearing to allow that to occur. So with that, the first continuation is application 28-13 for Stone Love and Pizza. This was opened up on July 25th. The voting members on this particular application are myself, Ken Foreman, David Haddad, and Patty Johnson. Neither Scott or Mark were here at that original hearing. So at the time that we left that, we had some suggestions, and the applicant provided us with additional information. We just asked the clerk if there's anything new in the file other than what's been submitted by the applicant.
There's an additional letter of opposition from Sandra and Joseph Botball, 60 Curtis Street, and a letter from Attorney Ament outlining resolution of the board's request from the last meeting.
Then what I'll do is I'll invite Attorney Ament up to provide us with an update since the last hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. For the record, I'm Bob Ament. I'm the applicant's attorney. The board did, at the end of the hearing, which actually was on May 16 when this case was opened, indicate some requirements that they would have or suggested conditions of possible approval. And as you know, on July 19th, I submitted a letter to the board that outlined the significant efforts that John Antonikakis has made to comply with the suggestions of the Board of Appeals, including reaching an agreement with his landlord to amend the lease, and it has been amended to allow for a designated parking space for takeout pickups, the closest space to the proposed storefront on Elm Arch Way. That was something that was resisted by the landlord, who felt that it could create problems with other tenants and so on, but we were able to work through that and achieve that. We also have the landlord's permission to put signage for the designated delivery area that's behind the doors to the two restaurants that are on the site. And we responded to the concerns in other ways. We have been in touch with the town highway department and with the police department, and are prepared upon receiving an approval from the Board of Appeals, to work with the Traffic Advisory Committee to have signage installed to address concerns about parking on Elm Arch Way, and to see if we also can't put some signage that would discourage any traffic that shouldn't be there from continuing on Elm Arch Way past the end of the business district into the residential area. So I think that we've done everything that we can, and gone a long ways towards complying with the suggestions that were made. I'd like to remind the board that we're not creating a new business. This is an area that's intended for to take care of a takeout operations which are already allowed in the restaurant. There's no cooking going to be done at Elm Arch Way. This is simply taking a function of the restaurant, which presently is in the middle of the restaurant, and getting it out of there and allowing pickup as well as use of the space for storage at that separate entrance, which is right next to where parking will be designated, and where there's additional parking that there's certainly some availability. There are 16 parking spaces back there for the restaurant. But we're not even creating a new business. We're expanding an existing business into a place where otherwise there would be a business, a new business, and have been separate businesses on Elm Arch Way. I think if you take all that into account and what we're doing to comply with the concerns, that hopefully you'll agree that this special permit, as requested, should be modified. We already have the special permit for the use, and we're talking about expanding the area to which the special permit applies. I do have one more piece of correspondence to submit to the board. We have had discussions with the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jay Zavala, and Mr. Zavala has written a letter which we received only late this afternoon that is not addressing this particular application. He makes a point clear that that the Chamber doesn't do that, but he addresses what's actually a much more important issue, and that is parking and policy and traffic demand issues as they relate to the downtown business area, which is a concern of the board and which has driven some of the suggested conditions that we've tried to address. And I think that it's not a long letter, and I'll just read it to the board.
Bob, if it's not specific to this application, are they not?
Well, I believe that what he is saying is important, that for the board to take into account with respect to this application.
Yeah. But the board doesn't like people to read letters from others, so.
Let me just give it to the board.
Just give it to us, and I'll circulate it, and we'll, before we complete this, we'll be able to.
Yeah, what he is saying is that traffic is an issue. The Chamber is certainly concerned about it. They think that there needs to be forums about it, work with public officials. On the one hand, we have the selectmen adopting recently goals that include business growth downtown. And he basically says that he doesn't feel that in the permitting arena, some businesses should be inadvertently impeded due to regulatory requirements that do not apply to all. I think that makes sense. We have policies downtown, and I've alluded to them in the correspondence I've submitted to you, that relate to traffic issues and parking issues. As you know, in the Business 1 district, for almost all uses, parking is not required to be provided because of the availability of public parking. The solution for individual businesses is not to push all of their employees out of whatever little parking they have into the public parking areas. That doesn't solve a problem, generally. That just pushes parking around. That isn't the solution. I think what he is saying is that these parking issues need to be resolved on a district basis, the Business 1 district basis. And I think he's right. He mentions that he was for some 6 years the town's representative to the Cape Cod Commission. He's very familiar with traffic demand management strategies, which I've mentioned in the correspondence, and some of which Mr. Antonikakis has agreed to adopt. And we've already indicated a significant percentage of his employees who are using alternative means of commuting. But that the way to really have an impact is for downtown in general, downtown businesses, and I think that the Village Association and the Chamber of Commerce are, ideally suited to work on this issue, is consider where more parking might be available, where there might be a shuttle, particularly for employees downtown who don't need their car much during the day, where they could park and come into downtown. There are some solutions, but they need to be done on a district-wide basis. Having said that, I emphasize that we have been very responsive to the concerns raised by the board, and we have made suggestions about the things that Mr. Antonikakis individually can do. We haven't ignored the board's concerns. We've addressed them directly because we want the board to approve the requested permit. But I think the letter from Mr. Zavala is relevant on these issues, so I'll give you that now, and I think I've said everything that I need to say.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bob. And what we'll do is we'll have the board ask some questions as a follow-up, okay? Patty, do you want to start?
Yes. Where did the suggestions for the traffic demand management plan come from that you adopted? Or you're suggesting you're going to adopt?
Where did they come from?
Yes.
Like Mr. Zavala, I've dealt with the Cape Cod Commission over the years, and on projects that have involved the Cape Cod Commission, we've had to deal with their extensive list of strategies that are intended to reduce traffic and to also reduce parking requirements. In fact, there's a long list of possibilities, and they go far beyond the ones I've suggested, designated carpool spots and many other suggestions as to how to reduce traffic requirements. But they are actually part of the regional policy plan of the Cape Cod Commission. So the items that Mr. Antonikakis thought that he could adopt and integrate into his business and get his employees to be responsive to, in which they already are being responsive to, we've selected from that list the things we thought we could do.
You didn't mention tonight how many seats you are willing to agree to or accept.
Well, in the correspondence,
including the outdoor seating.
in the correspondence that I sent to the board on July 19, we specified that the suggestion that you made to keep the number of seats the same as existing outside, and the suggestion that others made, and there seemed to be a consensus about of allowing a total indoor seating of 98 seats, we already said that that would be satisfactory.
Okay. I also had mentioned a bike rack.
Yes, and our letter also said that, and one of the strategies was that we would provide a secure bike locking space behind the building. We also said that employees would be informed of secure bike parking that's available in public spaces, so we will do both of those things. You know, there's no doubt that that's a crowded area of Main Street these summer evenings when the French bakery is still open, and Liam's is 2 doors away, and Stone Levin's very successful restaurant is open. There are a lot of people on the street downtown. A lot of people celebrate that. I noticed a couple nights ago a couple of people with bicycles just standing outside. I don't know whether it was Stone Levin or the bakery. And it, you know, you're not supposed to be on bicycles downtown. You can walk bicycles. You're absolutely right. That is congested, and it's a difficult area for people with bicycles. And yet we encourage people to come downtown on bicycles. But the response to your concern is that we've already put in our letter that we would provide a secure parking, a secure space for locking up bicycles behind the restaurant. And as you probably know, there's recently been installed a new bike rack immediately across the street in the little park.
Those are my questions right now.
Thank you. Ken?
So can you, with this current proposal for 98 seats, can you refresh us a little on what the layout is inside the restaurant?
Well, I could show you the same plan we had previously, which showed 106 seats inside. Was it? Maybe it was 108.
It was 108.
I think it was 108.
No, we had that plan. We've not drawn a new plan.
Okay, so what is deleted?
What is what?
Deleted if you're going from 108 to 98.
We will take out 10 seats and rearrange the seating inside. I can't imagine that
So
the
there's
board
no-
is
no-
concerned about where the tables are inside.
Okay, so that's, I mean, there's no specifics that you, in terms of that.
No, I think that the bar, which is existing, will remain the same. We still will be, remember, some of that is in additional space. About 10 spaces are over in this area, which creates a little more private dining area, and those will stay, but there'll be some tables eliminated.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
David?
I'm all set, thank you.
I'll have a few, and thank you for the response. It's very helpful to have that. You mentioned in the letter, the landlord has agreed that a sign with the parking for tenant deliveries designation may be posted on the building. Does that mean it's allowed, or will it be done?
The tenant has approved it, and if it's a condition the landlord has approved it to be done.
Okay.
And it seems like a good idea in any case, but if it's a condition of your approval, then Mr. Antonakis will have it done.
The potential signs that you talked about, we don't know if the town will approve them, correct? So,
We don't know if the town will approve it. We don't know what any board does until they do it. However, this is a town way.
yep,
I don't think anybody disagrees that parking on Elm Arch Road anywhere in the business district is appropriate. I can't imagine that can't be done. It's something that we will, you make good faith efforts to have it done, but we can't do it. It
Right.
requires the town to do it. It's a fairly low cost thing, and John Lyons of the Highway Department thought that they actually had signs available. Exactly what the signage would be, where the business district becomes residential district, at the end of the parking areas. I don't know, because I don't think the town will put up signs that say no entry or you're not allowed, but to specify that there's no, that it's not a throughway, that type of thing I think would be helpful.
And you would recommend such language as no outlet, no parking, in the area of no parking. What about the possibility of also in the area of the pickup and delivery spaces, no standing? Because that's part of the problem. It's cars that are, at least that we
Well, you
heard.
mean on the street?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't disagree.
I think all of these are on the street that you're talking about
Yes,
in
right,
terms of
right.
signage, no parking.
Sure.
And I'm suggesting
that-
adding to that no standing
If I had thought
because
of that language, I would have put that right in there. I think
then I
that's...
changed my mind.
I think
No, I'm
that's
kidding.
just the thing to do, and I think, but it has to be up to the experts.
Okay.
But we can make that language a suggestion. We're not going to use all that language. They're going to decide what's appropriate.
Bob, what are the number of spaces, because I wasn't sure when I read the letter, that will be there for the 10-minute parking for the pickup? Is it 2 spaces?
No, it's just one. I thought we made that pretty clear, and certainly intended to. The landlord has agreed to only 1 space, and despite our efforts, has specifically not agreed to 2 spaces.
Okay, the only reason I was confused, in your last hearing of the letter, it says, and to have 2 designated parking spaces for takeout and 1 delivery space at the rear doors.
I was specifically repeating what the board had requested,
But you
which
can
is
only
in
provide
your
1.
minutes, and saying we've done almost all that thing. That's the only thing we can't do. We have 1, but, you know, one is better than none. The business is there now, and it's the best we can do.
Okay. And Bob, could you remind the board the number of seats that Brigham's had and the significance of your bringing Brigham's to us and the number of those seats?
Well, Brigham's had 128 seats, and they occupied the entire west side of the building. They were not the only tenant in the building back then. But they had 128 seats.
Is it
shown on the
128 or
plan.
126? I'm not sure.
I can't remember exactly.
Okay, the minutes said
Yeah.
126, and
That may be right.
Okay.
Maybe someone else knows. But that's shown on the plan. It's actually probably on the plan on the other side of this, but whatever. The significance is that we know that, I believe, a date in April of 1979, that was the use of that property. And our zoning bylaw specifically says that the parking requirements don't apply to a use that does not increase the parking requirements over what existed at that time. This is a grandfathering provision that town meeting adopted when town meeting adopted parking requirements that otherwise apply, and it applies in this case. The Board of Appeals has already found that it applies in this case. It did so, and it's done so more than once, by the way. It did so when Stone Lovin was approved under the prior ownership several years ago, and we obtained the special permit which we're asking be modified. And the board made the same determination with respect to the special permit that was issued for the French bakery more recently. So we don't think that the parking regulations apply, but we're doing everything we can.
I just wanted you to remind the board the purpose of that, so thank you. Any other questions from the board?
It is true that Brigham's was in a different location.
No, Brigham's...
I mean, they were in a different part of the building.
No.
They were in that part?
This is the Brigham's plan, this whole thing. And this overlay, which I prepared, shows the layout of the area that is proposed for the addition, if you will, the expansion of Stone Lovin pizza. So, as I said, Brigham's was the west side of the building, I hope I said that correctly previously, on the corner. So this is the corner of Elmarch
That's
and
right.
Main Street. Brigham's was from all the way to the front to the rear. They had a rear entrance over here, probably the same door we're talking about. And we're going to have a small portion of it. And the rest of the building is over here.
Another question, I noticed in walking the sidewalk where the takeout door is, there's a pretty significant hazard there with a telephone pole that has a wire support right in the sidewalk, and I would hope, I don't know who you asked, but that's a
Well, it may
that's
be
a very
possible to
bad-
put a planter or something. I'm aware of that. It exists. That space has been used for businesses all along.
But with the traffic from a takeout window, it
Well,
could be more exposed, and I just would
I'm
rather
not
deal
sure,
with
I
it.
don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
We've described,
Yeah. And the second suggestion, are you gonna ask the Traffic Advisory Committee to put signs on both sides of the street? For no parking on,
I think that there shouldn't be, and so does the board. We can all agree that there isn't space to park on Elmarch Way. Sure, we'd be happy to ask for signage on both sides of the street.
and does the public way end when it goes out of the business
No,
district?
no.
It goes around the
Elmarch
circle?
is a public street all the way 600 feet from Main Street, which,
Okay,
according
so-
to the town's records, I didn't look at the taking plan itself, but that would mean that it goes all the way to the turnaround.
I felt that it was valuable that you could turn your car around the circle in
Well,
there.
you know,
So I'm just telling you, I just felt, not the one where the residents are, but the first circle that's out in front of the inn. Just beyond the business district.
well, it's my
Because if you get
recollection.
people down there that don't know what they're doing, then they're gonna be back. So
It's
I-
my recollection.
If I can, we're just going to limit it to questions right now, then
Well, it's a
we'll have a
question.
discussion. Well, I didn't get the
I got the
question.
question was, is it a
Could
public
you use the
way?
And
turnaround?
the answer is, it's a public way
Yes.
all the way.
Okay,
If you want an answer to, could you use a
No.
turnaround, there ought to answer that.
No. Okay.
okay, those are my questions.
Go ahead.
So I'm just trying to refresh my mind about the footprint of Brigham's versus the footprint of Stone Lovin'. Is that the same square footage for those two restaurants, or?
The total square footage of Brigham's, I'm sure, was greater than the proposed increased total square footage of Stone Lovin'. And the reason I think that is because Brigham's had half of the building. And this half of the building is presently 2 retail stores, plus this proposed expansion of Stone Lovin'. The other half of the building, in this area,
Yes.
is comprised today of Stone Lovin' Pizza and the French restaurant. So the Stone Lovin' only has a portion of the other half of the building. So
So the configuration is quite different.
They may have somewhat more than half of that half, but maybe they have 30% of, or maybe they have 60% of the other half. So that plus this is less than this half. I don't think that the question you're asking is, it's not exactly how that bylaw works, but hopefully that's helpful.
What else was in the building at the time Brigham's was there?
Well, I can't remember
Because I can't either.
if Orton's went back that far. Just this week was the obituary for Armand Orton's, who started that store, and I think he may have started Orton's. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if in 1979, in fact, I'd be quite surprised if in 1979 Orton's wasn't there.
Orton's was there.
Well, there you go. So
Okay.
Orton's was on the other side.
All right.
David?
That I can remember.
I think it was the kids'
David.
clothing too, wasn't it? Bob, I think I recall from the last hearing, either John or yourself gave testimony that the owners would be willing to police the parking out back. Is that still, in fact, the case?
Well,
I mean, to the best of their
we
ability,
we
obviously.
certainly didn't represent that the owner would do that because we didn't have the
Or
authority to do
designate.
so. But John Antonikakis will make that representation, policing it both in terms of just daily cleaning up any trash, but also, I know it was a concern to the board about trying to keep people from parking on the street, especially people running in, whether it's a run into the bakery thinking there won't be a line, or to get an order from the restaurant. We don't want people stopping on Elm Arch Way. And one of the suggestions was that the business should enforce that, particularly because it's not in his interest at all to have cars parked in front of his storefront. They won't encourage that, but there's a limit to what you want a private business doing and running out and telling people to move their cars, and I think we have to do that with some sensitivity.
Yeah, not the landlord, but John's willing to do it, or somebody, one of his designees just
Well, I
every
think
now
that
and
they
again
should,
go out there.
we could put a sign on it with the landlord's approval, right on the building that says no parking, no standing. It would be much better if the town puts the signs there and that the police would be able to enforce it.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Is there anyone here from the public that wish to comment further on this application? And we'll start with those that are in opposition. Andy, come on up.
In opposition?
Yep.
My name is Adrian Dufresne for the record, and I speak as a representative of Precinct 2. If I thought that the issuance of this permit was going to jeopardize the business, I probably would not be here. I think Stone Lovin has a very successful business and a good product. I think when they went in there, they knew what they had and what they were going to provide. The issuance of this permit, I think, seriously will eventually bother the residences that live in Elm Arch Way. Elm Arch Way is a very narrow way. And when you think you're going to take this type of public way and make it a stack line for take-home pizzas, and I've seen areas where there are a number of people waiting for their pizza to be ready. I do not believe that this is a proper area to provide that type of service. The town of Falmouth provides ample parking all along Main Street, in back of Peg Noonan Park. In all of the areas in and around Falmouth are adequate parking facilities for people that want to pick up their product from any one of the businesses on Main Street. Falmouth took out the parking meters years ago to do away with any fees or whatever, any inconveniences. The Main Street merchants right now, I think, have a thriving business because the town of Falmouth has gone out of their way to help them. I don't believe that we should jeopardize the residences of Elm Arch Way for the profits of any one of the businesses on Main Street. I know Walker Street. In fact, I'm probably the only guy that remembers when there was a church on that block. And I remember the church, and that was a beautiful building, unfortunately. It's gone. Now we have 3 businesses, and hopefully they're as successful as the majority of the other businesses on Main Street because the town has gone out of their way to provide parking facilities and areas where people can do business with any one of those businesses. I think this board has to look very seriously at what will happen eventually by allowing a stack lane to be created on Elm Arch Way. I do not believe that this is a proper thing for that particular street. And I would ask a full recognition of what is being asked here for something that really does not, I don't believe, jeopardize the current business that's there. I want to thank you for hearing me.
Let me see if there are any questions for Andy. Thanks,
I have
Andy.
a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Patty?
Did you hear the applicant say he was going to provide a stack lane?
Well, the minute you allow El March Way to become an access for a pickup in the back of a building, and I forget the distance from El March Way over to where this back door is going to be, you're bound to have at any time, if there's more than one car, somebody is going to be waiting for that car to leave the area that you've described as a waiting slot for the pickup. It just don't make sense. The area is too narrow, too small, too congested. El March Way is also a way out onto Main Street from all the stores just west of this particular block. So it's not only the block that where Stone Lovin is that will be using El March Way, plus all the residences in the back. You have people that come from Walker Street and cut across and come out El March Way. I just don't think it's something that we should allow. And if we do allow it, then, you know, we're opening the door. There's another business being created, and I'm not going to get on that subject, over on Cahoon Court. Will we have to someday look at a similar request for another dead-end street into a residential area? I think once you start infringing on residences and residential areas for the profits of a business that I'm going to repeat, I don't believe the denial of this permit will jeopardize this man's business.
Okay. Any other questions, there, Andy? All right, thanks, Andy. Anyone else in opposition? Anyone in favor of the application? Okay. John?
My name is John. I'm the owner of Stone Lovin Pizza Company. I respect Andy's concerns, and I would just like to inform you, Andy, that...
No, John. It's
Oh,
the
I'm
testimony
sorry.
that we wanted.
Okay.
We don't really care about Andy listening to it.
Okay. I would like to make it clear that what we are proposing to put in that space is already happening right now in the main building. We are not going to be adding a business to that space. We're just going to be moving the business, the takeout portion of the business that is already taking place currently from one spot to another. So the cars that you claim, or that the person in opposition, Andy, claimed that are going to be stacking that road, are already entering into the parking lot, and they are not stacking the road. So I don't see why they will be stacking the road into the future. That's all I have to say.
Any questions for John?
Just a response.
Probably not, Andy. I think we've got the flavor of all. Thank you, John. What I'd like to do is encourage the board now to have a discussion before we go on to this. And I think it may be useful, we did this somewhat last time, if we can focus on the expansion of the number of seats and then look at the takeout portion of it, or however you might want to do it. But that's a thought. David, why don't you start?
Just the seats real quick. Like I said last time, I don't want to tell John how to run his business. I think he wanted, 128 seats or some other number last time. He's down to 98, 9 outside, 116 inside, 12 outside, and now he's down to 98 and 9. So it seems like he was listening to the board, or a couple of us. We talked about it's the parking, and what Andy brought up is what I was concerned with last time, and I'm still concerned with. But I think it's been solved. They talked to the landlord. He's willing to give a designated spot. I think that'll help out a lot. They spoke of the plans, spot for the delivery vehicles, as well as, the takeout is, not only delivery to the store supplies, but delivering the pizza. I think they spoke to that. They have their spot for that. Bob mentioned you know, John, not the landlord's willing to go out, police the area. A couple of the area residents were concerned about that people are parking all over the place. They're willing to do that. We mentioned signage, you know, they can't pin down what type of sign they want, but the town is willing to work with them. They've already had that in the past on El March Way, so. Myself, I would vote in favor of this, but I'll see what other people are thinking.
Okay. Ken?
I'm generally in favor. I think that they have made some significant reductions in, you know, in what they were asking for that have addressed our concerns. I wish there were 2 parking spaces in the back, because obviously, you know, especially around people, you know, at meal times or whatever, there's nothing saying only one person's going to show up to pick up pizza at a time. And you know, one thing that we could think about doing, we've done things like this in the past, is have a review after a period of time. If there's a nuisance and the folks on El March Way are feeling that the parking is, you know, not working, that would be an opportunity for us to, you know, modify further the requirements.
Patty?
I'm pleased with the suggested improvements with the signage and the parking, and a review within a certain length of time, not, hopefully, in the busy season. I don't know how that's going to work, since we have appeal periods coming up. It's probably the end of August before anything like this could happen, but I think it still should be reviewed sometime after the business is still in fairly high season.
Sorry.
I just have a concern with with giving an approval and then doing a one-year review that may cancel out the business or the to-go area, because the gentleman has to sign a lease. So I think there may be other ways, if the board is possibly going to approve this, is to maybe review and talk to him, and not, you know, somehow, either that or send a letter to, I don't know, DPW regarding the signage that the board has concerns, but to balance an approval on a year review to where what you may approve tonight may be taken away when he's signed a lease or signing a lease. I just caution the board on that.
A couple of things. I think in looking at this, you have to look at the increased seats as well as the takeout and the impact it has on all of them. I think on the number of seats, to me, the 126 is an important number. It's the number that gets us into the waiver. It's the number that was there for Brigham's. Although there's already been a reduction, I'd like to strongly suggest that you've got 126 for Brigham's, 24 for the French Bakery, leaving 102, which brings us up to the building capacity prior to 1979 for the waiver of the 126. I'd also like to have that be inclusive with the outdoor parking, which is a 30-seat increase in this restaurant.
Outdoor parking or seating?
Seating, forgive me, with 30-seat increase in the restaurant that's there right now. I also would like to suggest, because I think it's tough, if you have a rainy day, you're not going to have outdoor seating. I'd like to suggest that it's 102 seats, inclusive of not more than 9 seats outside, and they use it however they want. I still have some concerns about the takeout. I think it's not as simple as saying that there's already takeout there now and we're just moving it to a different location, because we're actually directing people to take out on a road as compared to out on Main Street. notwithstanding that, I would agree with Sari, it's very difficult to say, go ahead and sign a lease, and then what are the complaints we're going to hear? That a car was parked there, and we don't know if they're even doing business with Stone Lovin. So the ability to get valuable information for an administrative review, which we've done on other situations, I'm not sure is going to be easily forthcoming. My concern rests more on the signage, that if we think that the town might agree to this and it doesn't happen, we've already made some changes in this facility, the parking, et cetera, without that. What makes me feel a little bit more comfortable, though, is that if there was an agreement that if the town doesn't authorize the signage, that there would be signage on the building, coupled with the policing that we're talking about. I'm pleased to see, and we've seen it in some few cases before, but I'm pleased to see that the applicant did take seriously what we had talked about was the employee parking, but we've come up with a new terminology here, the TDMs.
I know.
So we'll have to use that in the future, the traffic demand management. I like that acronym. But I think that is helpful. I think the addition of the bicycle accommodations, I think are all very helpful. I think ultimately, I think what controls us in many ways is that if somebody can't get to that back door to pick up their pizza, and they're not going to do business there, particularly if they can't get it from the front door anymore. And I think that's probably going to make it work or not work. Yeah. And that, people will find parking, run across, and pick up their pizza. But, this is in many ways a business choice that John has decided. But, people generally won't go somewhere if it's not convenient for them. And if it turns out not to be convenient because either the police are coming to ticket them or the policing activities that John does or the neighbors' concerns, it's not going to work for them. So I'm less concerned. My personal reaction is the 102 seats, because that gets us to the number that was brought about. I think with the other requirements, I do wish that there was another space, but that's a small area out back. We've got the space set aside for the delivery trucks or vehicles. We've got a space set aside for the pickup. One more space, would it make a whole lot of difference? I'm not sure it ultimately would. But I think the signage, if we can require signage, preferably, and I'd say administratively approved by our administrator, if the town agrees to it, and if not, on the building itself. Again, the language to be approved by the zoning administrator. But I think it needs to include the no standing as well as no parking. So that's my thoughts. Any further comments, Bob? Okay. So, does the board have enough information that it would like to take action?
Yes.
Okay. Then I'd suggest
My
that a motion to close would be appropriate.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Foreman, Mrs. Johnson, all those in favor of closing this hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote. Okay. What action would the board like to take?
Make a motion to approve application 2813.
I'll second.
Okay, with conditions. So that's Mr. Haddad and Mr. Foreman. All right, what conditions would you like to see, David?
One designated parking spot for the takeout in the back, and that was the closest one to El March Way. Seating at 102, no more than 9 outside. Let's see,
And that's inclusive, 102 inclusive of the outside parking, outside seating, forgive me. Yep,
but no more than 9 outside.
right, yep.
Signage for that parking spot, that designated parking spot, whether it's the town puts it, town signage or on the building, I don't know how we could word that.
No, the designated parking for the pickup is something that's going to be controlled by...
On the building.
On the building, in the lot itself. So the additional parking would be the no parking, no standing, no outlet signage on the road itself.
So signage prohibiting parking on Elm Arch Way,
Right,
parking or standing,
parking or standing.
to be provided either by the town or by, in the event the town is not willing to provide such signage, the tenant will provide it on the building.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yep. Do you want language to be approved by the administrator?
Of the signs?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. David, do you want to add the designated space for deliveries, as I understand it, for use by all tenants, but there would be a designated delivery space?
And that's right off that
Yes.
back door.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Do you also want to add in the TDM,
TDM as presented in the letter.
the traffic
Sure.
demand management strategies?
That sounds like a great
To
idea.
accommodate employee parking.
Yep.
Yeah, to be clear.
I'm sorry, what, would you repeat that one, please?
Traffic.
Demand
management strategies.
Strategies.
Directed to the employee parking.
That was outlined in Attorney Ahmed's letter.
As outlined?
Yes.
July 19th.
I think that does it.
Free pizza for the board?
As long as it's under 50, right? You can do
A year.
Our trash pickup,
Oh, I think,
trash patrol.
well, I think the other part of it was the,
The finding, that'll be a finding?
a finding that the owner would police, and not to use that as a capital P, but small p in terms of trash and usage of the parking areas that they have control of, as well as compliance with the signage on the road. Okay. And the findings? Can you take a stab at that, David?
Not really.
The aggregate number of seats, including other businesses within the building, do not exceed the number provided in, by whatever the date is.
126 by the applicant prior to April 1979.
Right, okay. That's a key one, I suspect. This is not, I think it's worth finding that there is no, that this is not an addition of a new part of the business. It's simply moving the existing operation to a different location within the building.
And I think also the finding that there is adequate public parking to accommodate the additional 30-seat capacity.
On the street,
Additional parking, public parking in the area.
because it's a B1.
Yep. Okay. Anything else, Marie?
I don't think so. Just
Okay.
your standard.
Yep.
And
Any
I'll
other-
make those if that's okay with you.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote. Good luck, John. Thank you all for coming out to help us with that decision. Okay, what are you going to do? Because I don't think it'd be great to start.
I agree. Is that fair?
Good night,
I wish you
Andy.
were staying, but
I just,
you got to call it as you see it.
twice a year he comes into town. What's going on?
Mr. Foreman is going to be leaving the meeting.
You have recused yourself briefly.
And I think with our next application coming up, Mark, you probably want to step down.
I was going to ask if he recused himself. Could you read the minutes and see if he's already recused himself, please?
No, I won't be able to put my hand on the minutes personally, so I can't tell you that.
He did.
He did?
I don't, are
Okay.
you on the board when
Yes, yeah, you did recuse yourself already, so you don't have to make that statement.
he wasn't
I'm
here?
happy with it. I
Didn't
wasn't-
start till
I
June.
wasn't sick at that time.
No,
Could you look at the minutes
This
here?
continued from May.
Hold on just a second, we'll clarify it. because I don't have the minutes in front of me, I can't tell you, but we're going to ask our clerk to take a look at the minutes.
Sorry. Be at the top.
It was back on May 16th, so Mark was not here at the time. So-
June 6th was my first.
All right,
Right.
so he has to state that.
Okay, so, let me just tell everyone what we're doing. Our next application is 3313 for Linda Okagawa, and this was originally opened on May 16, but no testimony was heard at that time. So at this point, Mark, if you would like to...
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recuse myself from this appeal.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So if you could be kind enough to leave the room, that would be terrific.
Can we
Okay.
have the air conditioning, the temperature turned up a little bit?
Malcolm, we have no control of it. Thank you very much.
I've done it before, it worked.
We're not supposed to be playing. it.
Okay.
I'm the one who gets,
Our,
or spoken to, I should say. I don't get.
So what you see is 1, 2, 3, the four of us will be the voting members on this application. As I mentioned, this was originally opened on May 16, and no testimony was heard at that time. We continued it to this evening. If I could just make a couple of preliminary comments before I ask the applicant to come forward, is, again, this is not a forum on whether or not wind energy is an appropriate thing for the town. This is not a forum to discuss or debate the public value of wind turbines. This is a request for overturning the building commissioner's decision that there is not a nuisance at this particular property, 821 West Falmouth Highway. It is whether or not there is a private nuisance at that location. So with that, Linda, if you would come forward, introduce yourself for the board and the public, and we will go from there, okay?
With your permission, can we just...
Sure. Malcolm, feel free to pull up a chair if you'd like, and remind the applicant that the initial presentation is limited to 15 minutes.
Do you want to go to the podium and introduce yourself first, please? Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm Linda Okagawa. I live at 821 West Falmouth Highway in West Falmouth. Shall I want to continue?
It's all your time, Linda.
Okay. Since February 16th, 2012, my life has regrettably been turned upside down. Since February, on that day, Wind 2 at the town of Falmouth's wastewater treatment facility began operation. This 40-story power plant owned by the town has continually delivered waves of energy output and forceful and changing air pressure and sound over my property line. These forces invade my yard, my home, and my body. Wind 2 has also altered the natural processes at my property. A normal sunrise has become a nightmare as the gigantic blades of Wind 2 transform the rays of the sun and create obnoxious, violent strobing that spreads throughout my yard and my house, as I'll show you in a few minutes. Beginning February 16th, 2012, I sent 63 complaints to the town's wind energy log. I documented repeated nighttime awakenings, alert but often with no audible sound, ear popping and pressure evolving into pain, a loud sound like a jet plane that hovers but won't land, whoosh whooshing over the sound of traffic and pressure that you can feel. I explained that often I must leave my home for relief. At that point, it's not about enjoying my property, it's about tolerating being there. I discontinued sending reports to this log when mine were made public on the town's website and appeared to do no good in getting action or attention. Then I testified at the Board of Health public hearing on May 24th, 2012. I find that with increased exposure, there is increased discomfort. Ear popping has become ear pain. Fatigue from the constant pulsing pressure has become debilitating. I have noted all along that by leaving the property, these symptoms go away. Finally, in 2013, I turned to the building commissioner, Eladio Gore, to enforce the town's noise and nuisance bylaws relative to the impact of the operating wind turbines at the wastewater treatment facility. The operation impacts my property and my person, a private nuisance. I submitted 2 requests for enforcement on January 30th and February 27th. I cited noise from wind 2 combined with wind 1 and pressure and vibration and intense shadow flicker from wind 2. To my knowledge, Mr. Gore did not come to my property to experience and assess shadow flicker, noise, or vibration and pressure. On March 7th, 2013, Mr. Gore replied to my complaints, declining action and citing DEP sound studies at my property in June 2012. He also referenced 2 shadow flicker studies, a pre-construction shadow flicker study and an assessment of 124 Ambleside Drive in 2011. Mr. Gore cites the latter as representative of my property and uses the data as rationale for his denial of enforcement. In response to my repeated requests for a copy of the pre-construction study, Mr. Gore informed me by email on June 30th that such a study does not exist. Mr. Gore did not mention the DNV flicker analysis prepared in July 2012 for the WTOP. That most recent study does have results specific to my property. I am receptor 52, which I'll discuss and compare to actual results for 2012-2013. As you know, shadow flicker occurs when the sun passes behind the wind turbine's rotating blades. This can cause a strong strobing effect in neighboring yards, throughout homes, and across roads. The rhythmic flashing light can make carrying on activities of daily life frustrating or difficult. Try to read the newspaper, eat a meal, or close your eyes and tough it out. The strobing passes through most blinds, note this in the video, and your eyelids as well. Okay, Malcolm, I need the video.
Okay, David, can you dim some of those lights so that everyone can see this? Keep going. That's pretty good, thank you. You all see that wall? You have enough light, Linda?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can turn them up after that.
Where is that limit?
Malcolm.
Okay, that's me.
Linda, if you want to narrate while this is going on, feel
All right,
free to do that.
this is my cell phone, unfortunately, so that it's not a very good thing. This is in my living room. As you'll see, I have quilted blinds. The blinds are down. There are skylights. That is true. You'll notice, I think, that you'll see a black, sometimes you'll see the black actually blade shadow crossing. All right, we're going to go around to the outside in a minute too. So this is my living space. But it invades everything, not just this area of the house, but upstairs and the bedrooms and everywhere.
Do you have a date and time of this by any chance?
This, unfortunately, I had to replace my cell phone, so I lost the actual date, but it's somewhere in probably November, December. I have a date on the next one.
What time of the day was it?
Well, it occurs in the morning,
Okay.
so it was between 7 something and 8 something.
Okay.
I'll show you what the output is
Okay.
from the model here. So it's outside too. It's all over the yard. It's on the deck. And it's throughout the house. Now, the next one, please, Malcolm. As I mentioned, the activities of daily living and how it interferes. So maybe you can identify with this. This is your surrogate site visit here. Lines are down. This is February 2nd. Crosswords are one of my favorite pastimes. Okay, that's it. Those are the videos. Intense or prolonged flicker can cause nausea, headache, dizziness, and visual discomfort. We have experienced these effects when the strobing encircles our house and our yard. You can put the first slide back. I don't know that you had before. Okay. Yeah, stop. Okay, there. DNV's flicker and DNV's flicker analysis model specifically addressed my property. Okay. Would you like handouts to make it easier to see?
It's totally up to you.
No, it's up to you. If you can't see clearly where the houses are and stuff, I can give you a...
Let's keep proceeding.
Okay, sure. My property is number 52 on the map. It's shown in the 30 hours per year worst case zone. The model output predicts 64.49 hours, 64 hours, worst case hours at my location. A portion of my property is shown in the 10 hours real case zone and another in the 30 hours real case zone. Regarding the real case concept, the assumptions of DMV KEMA using this WinPro model were very conservative. They did not capture, they stated, they did not capture all hours or minutes per day. This receptor was represented by a 1 meter by 1 meter window. And that is why DNV KEMA recommended in the WTOP adding 30 minutes on each end of each flicker event to account for flicker in the yard. Now this is from a model. Now let's look at actual data. Okay, these are calendars of the times we had flicker. Yellow, as you can see, is what we actually observed it. When we were away, it could have been sunny, but we were not there to observe it. And sometimes the turbine was off and it was sunny. So 52 occasions of flicker in a little over 4 months. Most frequently it was 50 minutes and more. This does not include days, as I say, when we were away or it was off in the morning. Comparing the actual log with the predicted time and duration of flicker at number 52, I find that flicker starts about 10 minutes earlier and often ends 10 minutes or more later than predicted. And I think that is that's what the DNV KEMA was adjusting for. For example, well, anyway, the model predicted that the maximum duration was 50 minutes. But on November 4th, flicker was very strong and lasted from 7:10 to 8:40 a.m. That's 90 minutes. And that's 3 times the daily limit specified by the Falmouth Wind Turbine Bylaw, the Cape Cod Commission, and the DEP-DPH Health Study Best Practices. All 3 of them limit shadow flicker to no more than 10 hours per year, 30 minutes per day. The model output and map, the model output and map, which you saw, are from WinPro, but this data is from field observations at my property. And it shows that the amount of flicker produced by Win2 at my property and in my home is unreasonable. The only word to describe it is nuisance. In fact, the Nevada Supreme Court found that flicker in conjunction with other factors such as noise is nuisance in fact. The CEC requires all wind projects it finances to have a pre-construction study so that flicker can be addressed by siting no more than 10 rotor diameters. That would be 2,700 feet in Falmouth, or by planned mitigation. WTOP consultants estimated flicker curtailment for Wind 2 and Wind 1. The how-to of mitigation or enforcement existed and is clearly spelled out in their documents. Now, noise. In his letter of March 7, 2013, Mr. Gore supported his denial of enforcement of relief for 821 West Falmouth Highway by using the DEP compliance standard as the standard of nuisance enforcement. Audible sound was measured in dBA at 821 West Falmouth Highway by the DEP on June 5th and June 12th, 2012 in my driveway. Only one set of tests was ever done at the property in the daytime. No testing was ever done at night. The DEP's November 2012 report lists the limitations of the tests performed. It did not sample at a frequency or on a scale that would allow any evaluation of amplitude modulation. Did not have the type of equipment to adequately and accurately measure and evaluate infrasound levels. Set the sampler to slow response. Results will therefore differ from a sampler to collect data in the fast response mode. Thus, the data sampled did not address many of the most salient characteristics of wind turbine sound. Acknowledging that the current standards are not adequate to assess wind turbine noise, the DEP began last week a wind noise technical advisory group, WindTag, I guess. Last week it started to suggest modifications to the regulations that Mr. Gore is using. Okay. Slide. Thank you.
Linda, can I just,
Yes.
rather than interrupt you as you're going, how much more time do you anticipate using in terms of your presentation? Because if it's, you're almost at the 15-minute
Oh,
mark, and
geez.
if the board has the right to give you more time, but I just want to have you give us an
I have
estimate
about
if you
4 more
want.
pages here.
So how much more time do you need? 10 minutes?
Yes.
All right, is the
probably
board
about 20.
inclined to give Linda?
Make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Scott and David,
Thank
all
you.
those in favor of extending the presentation time by 10 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous
Thank
vote.
you.
Go ahead, Linda, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as you can see, on June 12th, for example, DEP test results showed that my property was 6.6 over ambient. Tests conducted in June, complaints were filed in January and February. Very different noise and pressure effects. A site visit would have confirmed this. Next. Power Dash, I don't even see that clearly, but Power Dash showed the output of Wind 2 on June 5th during testing was 661.8 kilowatts, and Wind 2 was 585.9 kilowatts. Those are down here. Okay, and these scales you have to notice that are adjusted for the actual size of the piece. So this is low. This is probably like half power for these turbines. On January 30th, the day of my complaints, output was near or over nameplate for both turbines most of the day. And it, for example, it was 1,700.7 kilowatts at 4 p.m. for Wind 2. The wind turbine health impact study describes noise from a stall-regulated wind turbine, which ours is. The noise level, I'm quoting, increases approximately linearly with wind speed and does not level off. So they show in a graph they have more than a 10 decibel dBA difference between low wind and high wind. So it should be expected that the noise will be highest at the wind speeds approaching full power. The relentless imposition of turbine output has severely compromised my ability to organize and think clearly when at home, and sometimes made me tingly and anxious and totally unproductive. For example, in order to write testimony when I was preparing for the May 16th hearing, I had to work at my daughter's house down the road. Mr. Gore says there's no medical or scientific documentation regarding pressure and vibration to connect Wind 2 and Wind 1 to the symptoms in the complaint, headache, ear pain, or dizziness. As far as pressure and vibration are concerned, formal measurements at 821 have yet to be taken. Mr. Gore implies that absent a formal study or a protocol, an assessment or determination of nuisance cannot be found. But we knew that people had a fever before the thermometer was invented. We could make an assessment that things were not normal, that well-being was at stake. We made a judgment that remedial action was needed. I feel that the pressure and vibration is greater indoors than outdoors. This was confirmed by the McPherson study of the same model Vestas V82 turbine located less than a mile away. Low frequency was measured both inside and outside, and inside was higher than outside, significantly. I was particularly interested in a study by the Solar Energy Research Institute done for the U.S. Department of Energy, because it seems to fit very well with my experiences and the complaints I submitted. Kelly, in this study of wind turbine-related complaints of annoyance or nuisance, said, "It is possible for low-frequency acoustic noise radiated from the turbine to interact with residential structures of nearby communities and annoy the occupants. This often created an annoyance environment that was frequently confined to within the home itself. The results of his study seem to confirm, and I quote, people do indeed react to a low-frequency noise environment, and two, A-weighted measurements that are not an adequate indicator of annoyance when low frequencies are dominant." Getting there. To sum up, I want this obnoxious, invasive, offensive, hazardous nuisance turned off. I want my normal life back at my home. I have had to change our lives, or we have had to change our lives because of the effects of the turbines. To preserve my health, I must leave home. The number of times turbine output drives me away or I must stay away really exemplifies or demonstrates the nuisance. The essence of a private nuisance action is some interference with the use and enjoyment of the property. The Fitchburg study, I guess. And here we have it. I urge you to overturn the building commissioner's decision and enforce our town bylaws. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. I'm just trying, I'll get the lights in. Is there anything in the file that,
Since we opened it, there's 3 letters of support of the appeal. There's also a memo from the building commissioner, Mr. Gore, regarding pre-construction flicker study not found or available, and substantial info submitted to the file by the applicant and others.
okay. I think what we'll do is, again, we'll start with questions of Linda. Because Mr. Gore is here and he wrote the letter, we'll ask him for any comments after that before we then go into comments in opposition. And I know that Mr. Duffy's here. We'll give him the opportunity to speak as well. So why don't we start with questions for Linda? Why don't you start, David?
You can turn it. Unless anyone needs to look at it. No.
No.
Hey, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
Just those 63 complaints to the town that you mentioned during your testimony there, written, phone calls, how are those?
No, they were sent to the Gmail account, and at some point, and I think I submitted them. I'm not sure if they were really clear the way they came across printing out from the town website. I could provide something more,
that's fine.
A little more detailed. But that's where I sent them, to the Gmail account.
And on your complaint forms, you stated excessive loud noise, loud noises.
Yes.
And Mr. Gore stated that that's a police issue. Did you ever call the police regarding any of those
No, I mean, I didn't
You know,
know.
if someone had
I
a
didn't
loud
know it was
lawnmower
a
party,
police- Oh, have I?
you know, someone would be
I've been
calling the police.
tempted.
But you didn't call the police for
No,
your-
I
the loud
didn't,
noise
and
you
I,
experienced?
until I read his letter, I had no idea that I should be calling the police about this. You know, could have.
And just on the two complaint forms that I was looking at, January 23rd, 24th, 25th, the 30th,
Right.
and the February 27th, why did those stand out?
Well, they're examples, I guess, and I thought on these forms, like the other forms, you were supposed to give a detailed explanation with dates and specifics and so forth, so I tried to be as specific as possible, you know, but this was an example of many days.
But it wasn't like
It was
this was-
very loud. The flicker reached a high point about that time. You know, it was coming day after day after day. So I finally decided that I should try some other avenue other than the Board of Health and the board and the Gmail or whatever it was. So that's why I said this is a nuisance. I mean,
On the February 27th one.
Yes.
I don't see where you mentioned flicker. Was there no flicker going on
I
that day?
have to look at that calendar and I could tell you, but the flicker stopped about then. The model is really good because the model, in terms of the length of time that it went on and so forth, was not reflective of my experience, but they were almost right on the day it started and the day it finished. So it was. If I look at that calendar, which you want to put it back up, we can see.
Right behind you.
Oh, here we are. Here's one of my handouts for this minute. I'll tell you.
Malcolm, no, please.
The last day was February 26th, actually. So, but 27th was very, very noisy, and the turbine, I was in bed when the turbine went on, and it jolted me out of, you know, up that day, so.
But no flicker on the 27th.
You know, doesn't seem like there was flicker on the 27th. Nope.
Okay, you know, you're talking about that calendar of strobing that you showed there. That was done by who?
Me.
By yourself?
I just logged it in. Every day that there was flicker, I just wrote that there was flicker. And
And that only
approximately
happens,
how long.
what months of the year?
It happens October, November, December, January, and February.
So October through February.
Right. Now, I could give you a document. I think I filed the portions of that report from, let's see if I have the right papers here. The report that came from DNV Kima. What is it? Let's see. Well, the report actually specifies, it tells you how many hours you had on every single day according to their projections. As I said, their projections are conservative because they don't always, here we are, they don't always
So we can have this for the
get
file?
enough time. Huh?
Take this for the file?
You two kind of have a conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, Linda. You remember you're on television.
Okay.
This-
Apologize.
That's
me.
all right.
Okay, you'll notice on there, you'll notice.
We are though.
Huh? I think I gave you the right thing. You'll notice that it has the months. See where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the dates. And then it takes the
Yeah,
months
is that,
across.
were you giving that for us, the file?
You can file that.
Okay,
I thought
thank
I
you.
had already put that in.
It
but-
is in the file.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. But anyway, to explain it, it does show you what the model forecasts for every month. So it'll show you it starts in October, and it'll show you it stops in February.
And during your testimony, you said those measurements you gave were for worst-case scenario on your property.
The ones, yes.
In the
I
study.
have that too, if you will. Yeah, in
No.
the study. That should have been in the file too, but I can find you that too.
It is.
It is, right? Yes.
It's in the file.
Everything's in the file.
Okay, thank you. Right, so that's worst case, and actually, worst case has been used by the best practices of the health panel, the DEPDPH health panel advocated, and so did the WTOP consultant. They advocated using I believe they advocated using the worst case hours.
And that's what you mentioned that Mr. Gore went by, that
No,
study?
Mr. Gore never addressed this study at all. He never mentioned this study, which is specific to my property. He mentioned a study which was done in 2011, I believe, at Mr. Donald's property. And he said that that should be representative of my property. But then he said in the letter, if you have any new information, updated information, then he would consider that. So, I mean, I don't know why he wasn't aware of the WTO.
Excuse me a second. Neil, would you be kind enough to ask that gentleman to step outside? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not
No,
sure.
I'm sorry, 'cause it'd be too distracting, and I want to pay attention to
Yes,
you,
thank
Linda.
you. No, this study has existed, as far as I know. It had a lot of publicity. I mean, people were going to the WTOP and watching it, and it was right there on their website and so forth. Discussed by the consultants, discussed again when they started to calculate curtailment and so forth. So,
And with the flicker, you mentioned sometimes it was over 90 minutes, but isn't
Yeah.
there, basically a standard of, 30 minutes a day, 30
Right.
hours a year?
well, the standards in the bylaw that we have and the Cape Cod Commission and what's recommended as a best practice states that it's 30 hours a day, 10 hours a year.
30 hours a day couldn't
30
be.
minutes.
30
a
minutes,
day.
hours, excuse me, 30 minutes, thank you.
30 minutes a
30
day
minutes a
and-
day.
And how many a year?
And 10 hours, a year. And the 30 minutes of a day, to me, is very important because I think there's a dose response involved here. Over 30 minutes, there was a study in Germany that the panel used that showed that people couldn't do, computations and their thinking was off and so forth after a flicker for more than 30 minutes. So that's been accepted as something. And to me, that's important because that's when the effect takes place. When the duration the dose gets too big on a given day is when I think it's more dangerous and maybe more of a nuisance to me. It's very annoying and a nuisance to have it day after day after day, but the impact is when it exceeds the 30 minutes, and at my house, it was almost always over.
And just one more question regarding the pressure. You said the pressure, you were experiencing inside worse than outside, but were you still experiencing it outdoors,
Yes, I can experience it outdoors too.
but not as
Yeah.
much? you
Well,
said,
it's
right?
really becomes awful, I mean, because the audible sound you don't necessarily hear. I think that it attenuates coming indoors with the windows shut. And that's the DBA measurements, I guess. But then that doesn't, the windows or the walls and so forth don't stop low frequency sound. So that, I think this is what they found in the McPherson measurements, that it's higher inside the house than outside.
All right, that's it for now, thank you.
Thanks, David. Scott?
Good evening, Mrs. Okugawa.
Thank you.
The 63 initial complaints that you referenced, how many responses to those?
Well, actually, let me think. The only response I got, I guess, was a call from Heather Harper saying she hadn't heard of me and she saw I'd lodged a lot of complaints.
So
And that's about it.
One.
And I acknowledge, yes, I had. So,
One, and the two, I believe you referenced 2013, March 7th. There was a complaint made to Mr. Gore, the second complaint, is that correct?
no, the 27th of
Okay.
February.
Now, how many times has Mr. Gore been out there to answer complaints?
To
from
my
you?
knowledge, he's never been to my premises. I'll have to ask him.
You're a year-round resident?
Yes.
And on my site visits, I notice that there's quite a bit of traffic noise. Do you experience that as well?
Yes, there is traffic noise. It's a different kind of noise to me. It's not the same kind of noise that the turbine puts out. I don't know, I wonder all different kinds of things. I mean, the turbine noise is is being generated from someplace up 400 feet in the air, being projected out, and the traffic noise is coming down. So when they make measurements on the ground, they're likely to get a lot of...
Just two more quick ones then. When was this PowerPoint presentation put together?
This week, I guess.
So nobody else nobody else has seen this at town hall or before
No.
tonight?
Well, let me see. I put first of all, the first slide in the PowerPoint was from from the DNB Kima study, so that was in the file. I did submit the calendars. They weren't in that format. They were individual calendars were in the file. I did submit graphs, I think, of the Power Dash output for the test day versus the complaint days. And what was the other thing? And of course, the study that I showed you was just a page out of the DEP study that was conducted at a lot of the different houses here, the daytime testing.
I lied. I told you I had two. I have one more. Don't you think it would have been important to present that video to somebody as part of your initial complaints on the shadowing in the living area?
Well, I don't know. I guess so. I assumed that I'd get some
No,
sort of...
no, I'm not. I'm just. I was just curious why that wasn't brought forth earlier as part of an early complaint.
At the time that I filed the complaint, the one about flicker,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
was plenty of time for someone to come out to the premises
Oh, no, I
and see the
understand.
flicker, so.
Okay.
And also, I had cell phone issues, I guess, and that's all I had for recording, so that's part of it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
right.
When was your house built?
1986, I think.
Do you know if it has insulation in it?
I mean, I guess it has some kind of insulation, yes.
Do you have shades on all your windows?
Pretty much, yeah, cellular shades
And were they
and
shades?
quilted shades.
Were they shades that you had before the
Yes.
turbine was put up?
Yes, yeah.
And-
Although I do have, to correct that, I do have some skylights that do not have shades.
When you showed the flicker on your crossword puzzle, where was the flicker coming from? What,
That was in a,
skylight?
that was, no, no, I don't think so. That was in a bedroom. There is a skylight on the far side of the room, but it was over near the blind, which, as I indicated in the video, was down. Now, I could mention something that happened in the WTOP when you asked me about insulation. Weston and Sampson, I believe, did a mitigation study for the town, and so they sent somebody from, maybe it was HMMH, I don't know, someone to come out, measure for your windows, additional insulation, what was it they were going to do?
And this
Oh,
was
central air.
at your house, Linda?
Yes,
Okay.
central air conditioning and so on, so that I could keep the windows closed in the summer, they said. And so, and that would help to attenuate, I guess, the sound, the audible sound, though, is what their measurements were. And when I was in the WTOP, I asked the consultant, you know, if this insulation and so forth would help with low-frequency sound. No, it doesn't do anything for that, he said. Comes right through the walls.
Do you have air conditioning in your house?
I have window air conditioners, I don't have central air.
But no central? Do you have a, oh, no, you wouldn't. I was going to ask you, because some of the literature talks about moonlight flicker, but
I did.
turbines are off at night.
No, but prior to that, I did. But I didn't, to tell you the truth, it only happened once, I think, and I didn't find it disturbing. I found it fascinating and beautiful. Because it wasn't as impactful. It didn't come in the house, I don't think. It was just outside. You could see that it was flickering.
And you have no flicker experience is between February and October.
Pretty much, yeah, that's right.
Those are my only questions right now.
My flicker's from 2. Some other people get 1.
Linda, you mentioned that the DNV report on the shadow flicker was based on a model.
Yes.
Has there been any independent studies of actual shadow flicker at your house?
No, other than my own calendar.
Your own
Right.
calendar and your own
I'd
observations?
be happy if anybody would like to, but I'm hoping that it won't be around in October again.
Well, just on that point, if this wasn't initially opened until May, so if Mr. Gore or this board were to go to the site and observe the shadow flicker, it would have to wait until October to do
Yes,
that?
other than these videos and some other videos, I guess.
Okay.
So it's a surrogate visit, I guess.
And during that period of time, October, November, December, January, February, 4 to 5 months,
Right.
and I understand there are times that the turbines may not have been operating, or you may not have been at the house, but how many hours did you accumulate of shadow flicker during that 4 to 5 month period?
Well, I don't know, I'd have to calculate it, but every day was over 30 minutes. And most of it was 50 minutes or an hour or so, or more.
The only reason I asked the question is you were mentioning, although it's not a measurement of nuisance, but you mentioned best practices and
Right.
10 hours a year. So I was just wondering how many hours you had accumulated.
Well, I'm sure it's over 10 if I have 52 occasions, and they were 30 minutes each.
If Mr. Gore or the board were to try to see the shadow flicker, what is the time period? I know that the sun rises at different times, but right now the turbines don't operate till 7 a.m. And so
There won't be any flicker until October. So it would be what I was showing in some of the complaints here. Or the thing that I just put for the file here, the paper there, that tends to give you about what time it's going on. As I said, my time is a little...
Linda, you don't need to be precise. I'm just trying to get an idea of it.
Here we
So-
are. Okay, here we are. For example, January 23rd, my log shows the house from 7:50 to 9.
Did you say 7:59?
7:50 to
7:50.
9 a.m.
Okay.
7:50 a.m. to 9
Yep.
a.m. And the model was predicting 8:04 a.m.
Okay. I
to
want to try to
8:51.
focus on the actual experience, okay?
Yeah, no, that is the actual experience.
So approximately
Right, I
8,
see. Yep.
not the model,
No,
8
not
to
the
9 is what
Right.
the time period
Well,
of
it's
the day.
because of the sun is moving and, and
No, that's,
it does change. Sometimes it was at 7:30 and daylight savings
Yep.
time came in the fall, went away in the fall, so.
the, in terms of the noise, Linda,
Yes.
is there a particular time of the year or time of the day that it is more significant?
Certainly it's more significant when the winds are higher in the winter months.
Okay.
And you can look at the high winds, and as was pointed out in the, what do you call it, the panel, expert panel thing, in the stall regulated turbine, there's a linear relationship.
Yeah.
So it's higher.
I'm really focused on, not so much on studies on your actual experience
Oh,
at
my
your house.
experience, yes,
Yeah?
yes, definitely. In the
Is there a
wintertime,
partic-
it's much worse.
The wintertime it's
Yes.
worse?
Mhm.
Is there a particular time of the day?
I don't know if I could say that. It depends on, I guess, what the winds are doing.
Okay.
If it's high winds in the morning, no, I can't say.
Leaves in the trees have any impact?
Certainly not in the wintertime.
No, but I guess what I'm trying to say is...
Right, I don't know. I couldn't really tell you because there's wind differences in the summer, so.
Any other studies on noise at your house other than the DEP study which you referenced of June 12, 2012?
No, as a matter of fact, I mean, my first letter, I guess, to Gmail or whatever it was requesting a study, a sound study at my house. It didn't happen until 2012.
Getting back to the location of the noise, is there a particular location on your property, whether it be, for example, on your deck, in the backyard, any particular place where it's more significant or impacts you in a different way?
We're talking outside now, right?
For the moment, outside.
Yes. Well, sometimes when you're closer to the house and therefore, I guess, the ambient sound is cut off, I guess, maybe it can be stronger. I can't say for sure.
Okay. Difference on the ground versus on your deck?
Yes, you can hear it more clearly from the deck.
Okay. The other question was, you mentioned about the pressure inside. Now, and if I got it correctly, what you said is the pressure is inside. You can't necessarily hear it outside. So is there a difference in the pressure inside the house versus outside the house?
Yes, but you can't hear the pressure either. I mean,
No, I know, I understand that, but you're trying to ask us to
Yes.
consider this, and
Okay, sure.
I know that on my site visits, I wasn't inside your house.
No.
Mr. Gore hasn't been inside your house that I
Right.
know of, so I'm trying to get a sense of
Exactly, I'm
if
sorry.
we were to get a better idea of this issue of pressure, we could only tell if we were inside your house?
No, that isn't true.
Okay.
There's pressure outside.
Okay.
And people who have come to the property have observed it.
Different locations on your property? Different?
Well, my property is 2 acres, and most
Yep.
of the people haven't gone all over the 2 acres, I guess, so.
No, I'm
near the
asking, I'm
house,
asking
yes.
you, not what we
Me?
might have, yeah, you can't tell what we experienced.
No.
What I'm asking you is pressure, it impacts you, the outside of your property, is it more significant in particular areas of the property?
Well, yes, I guess it's closer to the house, maybe. Well, it so depends on the conditions, you know, of the.
Can you just expound on that, what conditions?
Well, I've tried to kind of keep track of it, but it's very hard to do that, but sometimes the blades are right angles.
Yeah.
That bothers me quite a bit sometimes. And the back side, of the turbine, is not as audible, right? When the wind is going into the turbine, 2 things are happening. One, all the traffic noise is blown the other direction, I guess. And also it makes a great deal of noise going into the blades. But the times, I can't say with absolute certainty, but my impression is that the times when the turbine is facing the other way, and certainly when the blades are sideways, I noticed that I went back and reread my complaints, in the Gmail, and I noticed many times I remarked that the blades were sideways.
And I apologize, I don't know what it means when it says the blades facing the other way. I get it
Oh,
when
I
they're,
see.
when they're perpendicular, but I don't understand the other part
Oh,
of it.
okay. Well, the blades can,
Yep,
I don't,
they
somebody could
rotate.
help me with upwind and downwind, but anyway, when the wind goes in, so that must be upwind, into the blades, for example, if it's a northwest wind at my property,
Okay.
can be really loud. The audible sound can be really loud, and the ambient sound can be masked by that. If it's the other way around, sometimes the traffic can be louder, although you can hear it over the traffic with the right wind speeds and so forth. I don't know if I'm helping here.
No, you did it for me, thank you. I
It's very
didn't
hard.
want to I didn't want to guess at what you meant.
No, I have been trying, I try all the time to try to figure out, because I like, I'll leave my house if I know it's going to be.
Linda, you also mentioned about, there were studies that talk about the flicker causing nausea, et cetera.
Right.
But did I understand you to say what had happened to you personally?
Yes, I felt nauseous, intestinal upset. I felt, you get kind of disoriented. It certainly interferes with completing tasks. I mean, you can't read, really. You can't concentrate very well.
Yeah. Is that related to the flicker or the noise?
No, it's the
Or the
flicker.
pressure? Flicker.
That would be, I would say, that particular thing is the flicker.
Okay.
I don't think, I haven't tried to associate the noise and the flicker at the same, to each other, I don't.
And again, a personal question, but you don't feel you have to answer. Have you had a doctor that indicated that they're related, the flicker and the nausea, or is this just based on a study that you've read?
Yeah, I read the study in the what do you call it, the DEP panel study.
Right.
Talked about the dangers of the prolonged flicker. I work very hard to stay healthy.
Right.
So when I have conditions that are not good.
Complaints to a doctor or anything like that?
Not about flicker, no.
Or about the nausea that's related to the flicker? Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Linda?
Chairman, may I?
Go ahead, Scott.
Mrs. Okugawa, you mentioned that during the months that the flicker does occur, it happens between the hours of like 7:50 and 9 o'clock in the morning. Is that what you-
Yeah, or it can be earlier. It could be like, start right around 7.
At
Depends
that-
on daylight saving.
Are you retired or do you work?
No, I'm retired.
So you're home every day at that time?
Yeah, pretty much. Except, like I indicated, sometimes I'm away babysitting or whatever, out of the off Cape.
Thank you.
That's on the
Thank you.
calendars.
Do you think the flicker's worse at your house than other houses in your neighborhood?
Well, what I'm going to just say is that I don't think it's important that we compare to whether it be noise or flicker to anything else. This is, as I said, just the property at 821 West Falmouth Highway, and that's what we're asked to look at. So I'd caution the board not to go into comparisons with any other property, okay? Thank you. Sri, any questions of Linda?
No, thank you.
Okay. Linda, thanks very much. And again, Eladio, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming. Where it's your decision that we're looking at, you're welcome to come up and share with us any thoughts you have, and then we'll go further.
For the record, Eladio Gore, Building Commissioner, Town of Falmouth. Without restating my letter or going through some of the same things we've gone through before, I just want to cover just a couple of thoughts. One being the issue with Section 150-1 that you referenced, Mr. Haddad, through the chairman. This was a section that was cited in the complaint. And so my note, my reference to that is just simply stating that that 151 is a noise bylaw that is under the jurisdiction of the police. I was not suggesting that she call. I'm just saying that that section is not applicable. It's not under my jurisdiction as the building commissioner, and therefore I could not address a complaint under that section. So if that was a section that they wanted to use, that had to be directed to the police department. The same is with that 241. That is just a general statement in the bylaw, and so I wasn't going to address the complaint under those two sections. I wasn't suggesting anything other than that they weren't sections that I could take any action under. With regard to the flicker, I have not seen flicker any of the times that I have been out, other than I did see flicker when I was at one of the turbines. And so I know that flicker does occur, and based on the study, I know that flicker does occur. So I was never questioning whether or not there was flicker at this site or at any site. It is a phenomenon that happens with turbines. And my information or my response was based on the study that I had available to me. And so the hours, the amount of time that that study indicated would be when the flicker would occur, and as indicated in some of the testimony here, that it's short durations, to the extent that it affects any individual person. I'm not a physician nor a scientist, so I'm not going to dispute any testimony that's given as to how an individual was affected. I was not affected by it, so I tried not to use my own personal opinion about whether something is a nuisance or not, whether it's rises to that level or not. I have not been affected by any of my experiences, and so I try not to use that as the reason for that. I try to use something, a test or some documentation to make the basis for that. And that's why in my letter I said, if there is any additional information, please present that. And so that was all that I had, was the written complaints. I didn't have any studies, any documentation other than an individual's, anecdotal records about what they experienced. And so it's not my position I don't believe, to judge whether or not that person experienced those things. My position is to determine whether or not it rises to the level of nuisance that our bylaw talks about under the section 240-110, which is under the building commissioner, not the 150 or the others. So under that section, I had to determine whether or not it rose to that level. I based my decision on the study that I had in hand. And based on that, I determined that the number of hours spread over a year's time, in my opinion, did not rise to that level of a public nuisance that our bylaw, in my opinion, addresses. With regard to the pressure and vibration, again, I have to base my decision on scientific information or studies that are particular to the wind turbines that we have and the locations that the complaints are generated from. There is hundreds of documents out there, and I have been given many of them by individuals. Many of them are generalized studies, many of them are assumptions, and some of them are based on actual sites, but not the sites that I am been asked to make a decision about. And so I have to use the information that I have at hand that I feel is relevant to wind turbine 1 or 2, whichever the complaint is in reference to, and use that information to generate my opinion. So based on that, I used the DEP sound study to make that determination. And since the only time that there was a violation of DEP standards was in the evening, and the turbine's not running in the evening, I determined again that it didn't exceed the DEP standards of 10 decibels above ambient. And I think it's important to keep in mind that as the wind gets stronger, so does the ambient gets louder. And so the turbine may be going faster and may be generating some noise, but at the same time, the question is, what is the ambient at the same time that noise is taking place, and it doesn't exceed the 10 decibels above ambient at that time and at that location. And that information I have not received. I don't have any documentation that I'm aware of that would be able to make that determination. And so absent of that, my determination is that there is no, that it does not exceed the DEP's recommended study. Any reference to the 6 decibels is referencing the new bylaw and those standards with regard to smaller turbines and so forth. Pressure and vibration, again, I am not a scientist, or absent of any medical or scientific documentation specific to that location and our turbines, I haven't seen anything that would help me to make a decision based on this particular site or our particular turbines.
Okay. Any questions of Eladio? Scott?
Good evening, Mr. Gore.
Good evening.
I'm going to get back to the site visits. Have you done any particular site visits to this residence and met with the complainant?
I have not met with the complainant, no, but
Can I ask you why not?
No, could you just answer the other part first? Has he been to the site at all?
He said no.
No, I didn't catch that.
No, I did not say no. I have been all up and down that whole area.
To her particular site. Have you met with the complainant
No, I
on
did
her
not.
site? Okay. And you continue to reference the in-hand information that you had.
That's
Have you
correct.
received any information since this in-hand, since you made your initial decision? Have you received any information or sought any information that may have changed your opinion on the level of this appeal?
I have received the McPherson, I think it's the McPherson study, but that was in reference to another site altogether, to another property that, the Hobart's property. So no, I haven't received any additional information specific to this site.
And how do you receive your information, Mr. Gore? How do you get your information?
How did I get the study? One of the individuals came to my office and dropped it off and asked me to take a look at it.
But you don't request any information or studies on your own. You only base your decisions on information that's given to you by complainants?
If I have other studies that are available, whatever's available to me at the time, that's what I look at.
My question was, do you seek information on your own outside of the complainants presenting their information to you to rebuke what their claims are?
Well, I did. In this case, I went to the town and said, what do we have for studies? And that's where I got the...
Who's the town? I mean, I'm looking for who presented you with the information for you to base your decision on.
In this case, I went to the town manager, spoke with the town manager, assistant town manager, town council.
And you have any knowledge of where they got their information from to advise you?
Well, the study that I got came from Jerry Patanis, who provided that information.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gore.
Can I just clarify, what study were you just referring to?
The Weston and Simpson.
Okay, and that was on noise or shadow?
That was on the
flicker?
shadow flicker,
Shadow flicker,
yeah.
okay, thanks. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead, David.
Hi, Mr. Gore.
Well, thank you.
I know you said you've been up and down that whole area. Were you specifically at 821 West Falmouth Highway?
I was in front of that address, yes. I did not go down to the house. I did not meet with the applicant. Again,
But you've been on that property?
I have not been on her property. I've been on West Falmouth Highway.
And, okay. In an email you sent to Ms. Okagawa, you said you finally located that Weston and Sampson study. We still...
No, that wouldn't be correct. She was looking for...
Actually, it's the post-construction...
That's
shadow
correct.
flicker. So, after that, you still stand by your determination after reading that?
I'm not sure I understand
Regarding the
question.
flicker and nuisance on her property? You read that study?
I did, yes. No,
Go ahead.
permit me to try and clarify what that email was regarding. In my initial letter, on page 2, I think it's page 2, let me just find one more. Yes, page 2, under pressure and vibration, I indicated that the flicker study by Weston and Sampson, I indicated that there were 2 studies by Weston. Both studies indicated that there are no violations of the zoning bylaw and/or DEP standard regarding noise. I had believed that there was a study done prior to the erection of the turbines, and then there was a study done afterwards. And so she asked me for that other study. We had the study that was done afterward. That's the one that was done at Ambleside Drive. And after further investigating, it was determined that there was no pre-study, there was only the study that was done afterwards. So that's what that was, a clarification, not that there was anything different than what I had determined from reading the study. It was just that there was no study done prior to them putting up the wind turbine.
Thank you. And to your knowledge, is there any violations on that property by the state or the Board of Health of the town? Are you
Any
aware?
violations?
Yeah, noise, has anybody said anything regarding this, with the state or the Board of Health saying there's any
Not
problems?
that I'm aware of.
All right, thank you.
Patty?
What would be your definition of a nuisance?
By definition would be the definition in the bylaw. And what I would just have to determine is whether or not, in my opinion, whatever the complaint was before me rose to that level. So the bylaw talks about a lot of things, injuriousness to the health, property values. I mean, there are all of those issues spelled out in that nuisance bylaw. But, you know, as we all are aware, there are no standards for that. There is no guidelines to say if it reaches this decibel or if it does this, then it's that. And so therefore it is left up to determining whether or not on a case-by-case basis something rises to that level of nuisance.
Okay. Generally, when somebody has an appeal to you, do you go to the site? You know, just as a general policy.
In many cases, I may not go, no. In some cases, I do. It again depends on what the complaint is and whether or not my going to the site is going to have any bearing on whether or not what my decision is going to be. And as I stated, I have been to many, many sites. I have been, you know, all over the town. I've stood next to the turbine, under the turbine, all over, and my experience is different from other people's. And so my going somewhere and seeing whether or not I feel pressure or whether or not I get sick is really of no consequence when I'm trying to determine whether or not there is a nuisance, a public nuisance that rises to the level of the zoning bylaw. And there was no question in my mind as to whether or not flicker occurs. It does. The question is it occurring to the point where it's a nuisance? And that's, again, a subjective determination.
Do you know if a complaint register is available still? I mean, is there still one for the wind turbines?
I do not know. I have not seen it. I don't even know what the results were. The information that was being presented here is the first time that I've heard about how many complaints there were or any of that information.
Okay. Those are any questions I have.
Eladio, just a couple of things. You mentioned in response to the question about what's the definition of a nuisance, and you mentioned that, in my opinion, it rises to a certain level. You also mentioned that shadow flicker is a part of wind turbines. In your opinion, is shadow flicker an objectionable feature?
Again, that's very subjective.
Right, in your opinion?
I didn't find it objectionable because it didn't have an adverse effect on me, so no. But that's not the reason why I made the determination.
No, I'm just asking the questions. You also mentioned you've been on West Falmouth Highway. The property at 821 actually goes up quite a hill before you can even get to see the turbines at all. Do you think it might have made a difference if you had been on the property when deciding whether or not it was an objectionable feature to the shadow flicker?
No.
It would not have made any difference. Okay.
Again, and may I explain a little?
Oh, please.
Okay. Flicker is going to happen.
Right.
And the amount of time that it's going to happen, according to the study, in comparison to the number of hours that there are, in my opinion, was small by comparison. And my going there and seeing the flicker would not have made a difference one way or the other in terms of my decision. The decision is whether or not that flicker is objectionable.
Okay. And so then, was there anything tonight that was presented that would have changed your opinion at all? Oh, you weren't here for the presentation?
I didn't see the
I apologize.
flicker part of the video, no.
Did you see the information in our file regarding the calendar of days of the flicker? Okay. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Anyone else? Sri, any questions about it? Claudia, thank you very much. Good to see you. All right, we are going to go into that point of public participation. As I mentioned earlier, we'll start with opposition. Out of courtesy to Mr. Duffy, who's here representing, I'm assuming the town, as the owner of the wind turbines, would be opposed to this application. I invite you up, Frank.
Not a surprise there, I don't think. For the record, my name is Frank Duffy. I'm town council. I'm here on behalf of the town of Falmouth, which is the owner of the wind turbine, and also as a backup for Mr. Gore's testimony. I just have a few remarks. I'll try not to be duplicative of his remarks. But I think the building commissioner's response was appropriate. He found no violation of the zoning bylaw or of the DEP noise policies or regulations. He also made a determination, as he just explained to you, that the flicker that is the subject of his complaint, while annoying, did not rise to the level of a nuisance and would give this board any reason to take any action contrary to what he decided. So I would ask you to affirm the decision of the building commissioner. As you pointed out at the beginning here, Mr. Chairman, this is an appeal which is limited to 821 West Falmouth Highway, and that's very appropriate. It is not a referendum on wind turbines. There are other venues where we can have these referendums. But if we take a look first at section 240-110 of the zoning bylaw, which is the authority that Mrs. Okagawa is asking the board to invoke, that is the section on nuisances. And it says, no use shall be permitted which would be offensive because of injurious or obnoxious noise, vibration, smoke, gas, fumes, odor, dust, or other objectionable features, or be hazardous to the community on account of fire or explosion or any other cause. And I will be talking about that section of the zoning bylaw. You'll note that in that section 240-110, it does not contain any specific, within the zoning bylaw, there are no specific definitions of that. And it's a rather vague bylaw which requires some subjective analysis and determinations by a board like this board. So I would like to make some reference to the board, and by the way, I'm going to be giving you a memorandum afterwards with some of these references in writing if you have a chance to read them, to look to case law of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to help apply this bylaw in a coherent manner. The standard for a private nuisance is when a property owner, that would be the town in this particular case, creates, permits, or maintains a condition on its property that causes substantial and unreasonable interference with the use and enjoyment of the property of another. We have a situation here where there is clearly certain annoyance and there is interference with the use of Mrs. Okugawa's property. We're not saying there is not. But the question we're raising, and for you folks to decide, is whether or not this interference is substantial and unreasonable that would allow you to apply the nuisance bylaw. We're saying it doesn't. The location of this property is, I think, important, where it's located in West Falmouth next to a public use district. I'm going to give you a quote briefly from a case. This is the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts saying, "There is no hard and fast rule as to what does and what does not constitute a nuisance. It is largely a matter of degree and the relationship of various factors to each other. That noise is disagreeable and disturbing to ordinary people is not enough. It must be unreasonable under all the circumstances, and the character and locality of the locality is a circumstance of great importance." That's the case of Casper versus H.B. Hood. The site is in my memorandum. So there must be a showing of evidence, which has to be introduced by Mrs. Okugawa here, that the interference complained of is both substantial and unreasonable. Now, if you look at the parcel, which is in the proximity of Mrs. Okugawa's property, it's a 314-acre parcel on Blacksmith Shop Road, where the wind turbines are located. The use of this parcel for that purpose is appropriate. Mrs. Okugawa's property is in close proximity to a public use district under the Falmouth Zoning Bylaw, and under section 240-33B of the zoning bylaw, all municipal purposes are permitted on the site. A public use district is where a municipality locates its infrastructure, a wastewater treatment plant, a dog pound, a public works facility, and other uses that are viewed as incompatible or with residential neighborhoods. But a wind turbine is an appropriate use in a public use district. It generates power to run the waste treatment facility, and it also generates revenue to offset the other energy-related expenses of the town. I also want to point out to the board for your consideration that this wind turbine has been expressly authorized by governmental act and authority. They have the 7 town meeting votes authorized the design, construction, and financing of these turbines. In addition, there were 2 special acts of the legislature that authorized the construction of these wind turbines and the financing thereof, and authorized the town to borrow for them. Wind 1 and Wind 2 both were built under the authority of building permits issued by the building commissioner, a decision that this board affirmed and was later affirmed by the Superior Court. So they're perfectly permitted and appropriate uses in this district. Just as an aside, I'd like to point out a similar case I mentioned the case of Logan Airport. We all know that Logan Airport is a bothersome and considered a bothersome and intrusive neighbor for many of the people who live in the surrounding communities. But it too, like the wind turbines, serves a very valid public purpose. An operator of an open-air theater in East Boston brought an action in tort alleging that noise from the airport unreasonably interfered with the operation of his open-air theater. And our Supreme Judicial Court held that a public instrumentality, which would be the town of Falmouth, operating with legislative approval, cannot be held responsible for nuisance. The operation and extension or enlargement of Logan Airport by the Mass Port Authority, the very activity of which plaintiffs complain, being expressly authorized by the legislature, the plaintiff's action predicated on a nuisance theory must fail. It is a principle of long-standing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that where the legislature directs and allows that to be done which would otherwise be a nuisance, it will be valid on the grounds that the legislature is the proper judge of what the public good requires. Wind 1 and Wind 2 do not violate the terms of any existing permit or license. There's no special permit here, there's no conditions here. Now, section 240-166B of the zoning bylaw, which is the section which requires a special permit for wind turbines, as we know now, as per the judgment of the Superior Court, does not apply to these wind turbines, which have been erected with building permits from the building commissioner. There is also in section 240-166B that sentence which refers to a rebuttable presumption that noise from a windmill in excess of 40 decibels shall be deemed excessive. It is a rebuttable presumption, and it is rebutted by the circumstances in this particular case, even if it were to apply. In November of 2012, the Mass DEP, as you have heard, conducted a sound survey of the wind turbines. The DEP policy and regulations determine that there is a noise violation when noise from the wind turbine operation exceeds background noise by 10 decibels. The report concluded the combined operation of Wind 1 and Wind 2 does not exceed 10 decibels above background sound levels. I note that DEP also noted in that study that the background noise itself often exceeded the 40 decibel level. And that study is attributed to both Wind 1 and 2. There's been some question as to whether or not that DEP study is valid, whether these regulations are even appropriate. Well, that debate can probably go on for a while, and it will go on for a while. But the fact of the matter is, they are the regulations that exist right now. They are the regulations that are applied right now. DEP may have under consideration amendments or changes to it, but they have not repealed it, they have not withdrawn it, and it's still the policy of DEP. The newly adopted standard of 6 decibels, which is contained in the new zoning bylaw, which we adopted at the April 2013 town meeting, is simply not appropriate. Wind 1 and Wind 2 predate the adoption of this bylaw. They were built with building permits issued before the adoption of the bylaw, and they are not subject to it. So the application of a 6 decibel standard would be inappropriate in this particular situation. Turning briefly to the subject of shadow flicker, which Ms. Okagawa explained. The building commissioner made a determination that shadow flicker is a transitory phenomenon. It occurs only at certain times of the day in an early morning and only under certain conditions. The information that he had was that this particular property at 821 West Falmouth Highway could anticipate about 26 hours of flicker per year, and determined that that did not rise to the level of a nuisance. And if we take the testimony that Mrs. Okagawa has given to this board just a few minutes ago, she reiterated that she logged in about 52 occasions, I believe this is the number, 52 occasions over a 4 or 5 month period, having a duration of somewhere in the magnitude of 50 to 60 minutes during the months October to February. I suggest to you we have a situation here which is transitory. It's limited to an hour or so a day, and not every day. The wind has to be in the right direction. The sun has to be up. There can be no clouds and a few other things. Is flicker annoying? Yeah, it probably is. I'm going to admit that. I think everybody would say that. Does it rise to the level of nuisance? Not under the circumstances of this case. It does not. It is not a substantial and unreasonable interference with the use of the property. We have a situation here where we're dealing with, the Board of Selectmen are very aware of the complaints that have been brought by many, many neighbors of the Blacksmith Shop Road property. As you know, one of the things they did in response to these complaints was to curtail the operation of the wind turbines during the evening. They go off at 7 o'clock at night and come on at 7 o'clock in the morning. This was a significant consideration from the Board of Selectmen to the town's people. Wound up costing a lot of money, but they made it nonetheless. The board has assured the public that addressing wind turbine issues is a main priority in the immediate future. There have been meetings noticed to try and come to a resolution. I would suggest to the board that we allow that process to carry itself to a conclusion. So I would ask that the Board of Appeals consider that under the bylaw, both the noise and the flicker are not injurious, because there's insufficient evidence that noise from wind turbines is directly causing health problems or disease. That is one of the findings of the wind turbine health impact study of January 2012 by the Department of Environmental Protection and the Department of Public Health. And while the impact of the noise and flicker may be annoying, they do not rise to the level of being injurious and unreasonable when you take into consideration the fact that the noise is coming from properly permitted wind turbines that serve a municipal function, and there's no violation of the noise policy and regulations of the Department of Environmental Protection. And while some people may consider that an inadequate protection, those are the only ones we have and can refer to. So I would thank you very much for your attention.
Listen, we're gonna probably have questions from the board, but I had a request that we take a 5-minute break for people to perhaps warm up and do other things, so.
Well, the warming up is probably important. It's cold in here today.
So we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Thank you, Frank.